It's that last phrase I find even more fascinating. I love 10, they talk about grace to you. I love 11, they do it with the Spirit of Christ. But 12, it's so powerful, it's so amazing. Angels are impressed. Man, what do you got to do to impress an angel? I can't think of anything I could pull off that would impress an angel. An angel is there from the beginning of their creation, ageless, praising God, doing the bidding of heaven, the highest bidding in the universe. They're ministering spirits. They witnessed the incarnation of Christ, the death, burial, ascension of heaven. They were there as the Holy Spirit was being poured out. I've always thought that would have been a cool moment. You're an angel on the balcony of heaven when God tips the Holy Spirit onto the earth. Wow. That's impressive. And yet, we don't get any verses that say angels were really impressed at Pentecost. But 1 Peter, we get a verse that's phenomenal. Angels are impressed. Angels are impressed that grace to you through the Spirit of Christ was hidden throughout the pages of the Old Testament and now gets to be mined by God's children. And they are so impressed by that you get this glorious luxury of identifying with the present power of the Holy Spirit inside of your life to mine out the grace that is there in the Old Testament. Don't ever let someone convince you that grace is a newfangled doctrine that is destructive to the church, that is the false last days message. One of the go-tos of people who misunderstand both eschatology and hermeneutics is they'll use Paul's statement to Timothy that in the last days people shall heap to themselves teachers having itching ears. They'll see people like me who are teaching and not laying back the hide and preaching and pouring salt in the wound and screaming you into hellfire and brimstone, and they'll say, see, the teaching is what people want to hear. That's because they got itching ears and they want somebody to coddle their sin. Anybody heard that? That grace message just coddles sin. And yet I don't ever remember coddling anything. Not even sure how to coddle. Much less to coddle sin. That'd be like petting a snake. I have no desire to do that. When Paul speaks that to Timothy, what message is Paul preaching? Everywhere he goes. Grace. So for Paul to say people are going to heap into themselves teachers having itching ears, but it's not what I'm teaching them, then what would they be teaching? They're teaching the old performance standards of Judaism and a return to that. And Paul said their ears are going to itch for somebody to tell them what to do. And you know what? I have found nothing's changed in the church. There is still people that will go to church with their ears itching for someone to tell them what to do. What do I do next? Now I want to go find somebody that'll give me a program. Find somebody that'll plug me in. Find somebody that'll give me advice. Find somebody that will teach me how to perform better than I've been performing. Their ears itch to be taught to go back to performance. And Paul said that'll be a telltale sign of a problem. So don't let someone lie to you and say that grace is the message that people's ears itch to hear. Grace is the message thirsty souls wish to drink. Parched people who've been starved and dehydrated spiritually, in bondage and chains, are dying to be released into, because it speaks of a God who loves them, who's finished the work on their behalf, and who has moved inside. It's grace to you. It's the Spirit of Christ inside of you. And it's so big, angels wish they knew more about it. They peer into this world to see what we're doing with grace. Well, I do believe there is an excitement in the heavenlies for what is happening in the church. How can there not be? What father doesn't get excited as his children start to come into their identity? It's a glorious thing to watch your kids grow up into who you hoped they would be and grow into the identity of who they might be as an adult, and then go out and be that person on the earth. What an amazing thing, and how deadly and sickening it must be to be a father, to watch your children refuse to grow up, never grow up. And there's people that have seen that as well. Watch those chains that keep them bound to being a child in their mind. No one wants to see that for their family. I think the heavens are feeling the liberation of the believer and of the redeemed. But this is not new. It is old.